The room smelled like sheet cake and burnt coffee. Someone had taped a banner across the break room wall, "Happy Retirement, Lyle," in letters that were already starting to peel at the corners. 41 years at the same insurance company, 41 years of maximizing every single dollar into his 401k. His manager stood up, raised a plastic cup, and said something Lyle would repeat to his wife that night: "The most disciplined saver this company has ever seen." The room clapped. Lyle smiled. He had $780,000 in his retirement account, and he had earned every cent of it, except he hadn't. Between $170,000 and $300,000 of that money was never his. It belonged to the IRS. And the IRS had been watching that number grow for 4 decades, patiently, quietly waiting for the exact year it could start collecting. That year is when Lyle turned 73. Not 65, not 70, 73. The age when the IRS stops waiting and starts deciding for you how much money leaves your account every year, whether you need it or not. And the more disciplined you were, the bigger the bill. Lyle didn't do anything wrong. That's what makes this dangerous. He did exactly what he was told: contribute early, contribute often, maximize the match. And every single one of those decisions made his bill larger. This isn't about bad planning. This isn't about greed or ignorance or poor timing. This is about a system that was designed in 1978 to do exactly what it's doing right now: collect. By the end of this video, you'll know 3 things: how much of your retirement account the IRS already considers theirs, why they chose age 73 to start collecting, and the one window that most people don't know exists to reduce that bill before it arrives. If you're between 55 and 70 right now, this is the most important window of your financial life. Not because the market is up, not because rates are low, because once that bill arrives, there is no negotiation, no extension, no payment plan. The IRS decides the amount, you write the check, and if you've spent the last 20 or 30 years being disciplined with money, saving more, spending less, watching your balance grow, this video might explain why that discipline is about to cost you more than you think. 1978, Congress passes the Revenue Act. Buried inside it is a new section, 401, subsection K, that almost nobody notices. The original purpose wasn't even about everyday workers. It was designed to limit executives at large companies from stashing too much money in tax-sheltered profit-sharing plans. But a benefits consultant named Ted Benna saw something else in the language. He realized the provision could be flipped, used to let any employee defer a portion of their salary before taxes. The money would go into an investment account, grow untouched, and wouldn't be taxed until they pulled it out decades later. He pitched the idea to a client. The client rejected it, too scared of the IRS, so Benna built the first 401k plan for his own company instead. That was 1980. The IRS issued formal regulations in 1981, and then everything moved fast. By 1982, companies like Johnson & Johnson, PepsiCo, and Honeywell were rolling out plans. By 1983, nearly half of all large employers either offered one or were planning to. 7.5 million Americans had already signed up. Total investments hit $91.7 to $5 billion by 1984. Within a decade, 48 million workers were participating. And here's the part that matters for this video. Every single dollar those workers contributed was a deal, a handshake between the employee and the federal government. The terms were simple. The government said, "We will let you skip paying taxes today. You keep the full dollar. You invest it, you watch it grow. But when the time comes, and we decide when the time comes, we collect, not just on what you put in, on everything. The contributions, the growth, the dividends, the compounding, every cent that accumulated over every year you held the account." That's the deal Lyle signed 41 years ago. Not on paper, nobody signs anything. It's built into the structure. Every paycheck where Lyle chose maximized contribution was another line item on an invoice he would never see until the IRS decided it was time. Think of it as an IOU. Each contribution was a loan from the government. The government gave Lyle a tax break in 1985, 1992, 2003, 2012, every single year for 4 decades. And each of those tax breaks came with an implied note. We'll be back. And here's what most people miss about the math. If Lyle contributed $10,000 in 1995 and that money grew to $60,000 by the time he retired, the IRS doesn't collect on the $10,000. It collects on the $60,000. Every penny of growth that Lyle thought he earned, the IRS has a claim on that too. The original deal wasn't just, we'll tax your contribution later. It was, we'll tax everything it becomes. Multiply that across 41 years of contributions, 41 years of compounding, 41 years of employer matches, and you begin to understand why the IRS was in no hurry to collect. Time was on their side. Every year Lyle's account grew was a year the IRS's share grew with it. The IRS didn't send reminders, it didn't send warnings, it didn't need to. Because the longer Lyle waited, the more the account grew and the bigger the bill became. Patience wasn't a flaw. Patience was the strategy. This wasn't an accident. This was architecture. Lyle's balance reads $780,000. He knows that number by heart. He mentioned it at his retirement dinner. He repeated it to his wife. He checks it every quarter on the portal, watches the line go up over the years, and feels something most people never feel about money pride. That number is his scoreboard. 41 years of discipline, compressed into 6 digits on a screen. But that number is a lie. Not because it's wrong, it's technically accurate. It's a lie because it includes money that was never his. Here's the math nobody shows you. Every dollar inside a traditional 401k is pre-tax. That means when it comes out, it gets taxed as ordinary income. Not capital gains, which get a preferential rate, not at some special retirement discount. Ordinary income, the same rate as a paycheck, the same rate as wages. If Lyle lands in the 22% federal bracket, which is common for a retiree with his balance plus Social Security, then roughly $171,000, $600 of that, $780,000 belongs to the IRS. That's the federal portion alone. Now add state income tax. If Lyle lives in a state that taxes retirement income, and most do, the number climbs further. In Indiana, where Lyle worked his career, the state rate is 3.05%. That's another $23,790. So now, between federal and state, nearly $195,000 of Lyle's retirement account belongs to someone else. And that's using his current bracket before the cascade begins. Because here's where it gets worse. That $780,000 doesn't sit quietly. Once Lyle hits 73, the IRS forces him to withdraw a portion every year. And that forced withdrawal, called the required minimum distribution, counts as taxable income, which means it doesn't just get taxed at whatever bracket Lyle is in today. It stacks on top of everything else. It can push him into a higher bracket entirely. And it feeds into 2 other formulas most people have never heard of. The first is provisional income, the calculation that determines how much of your Social Security benefit gets taxed. The thresholds are $25,000 for a single filer to start the 50% tier and $34,000 to hit the 85% tier. Those numbers have not been adjusted for inflation since 1984. Let that sink in. Thresholds set 42 years ago, frozen in time, while salaries and retirement balances multiplied. Every dollar of RMD income pushes Lyle closer to or past having 85% of his Social Security benefit included in his taxable income. The second formula is MAGI Modified Adjusted Gross Income, the number Medicare uses to determine your premium. If Lyle's MAGI crosses $109,000 as a single filer, Medicare doesn't just charge him a little more. It adds a surcharge called IRMA, the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. His Part B premium can jump from $202.90 per month to as high as $689.90 per person per month. And the system operates on cliffs. $1 over the threshold triggers the full surcharge for the entire year. Not proportional, not graduated, the full jump. Worse, IRMAA is based on income from 2 years ago. So a Roth conversion, or a large withdrawal Lyle makes in 2026, shows up as a Medicare bill in 2028, a bill he might not expect and cannot negotiate. The number on Lyle's screen says $780,000. The number that's actually his after federal taxes, after state taxes, after the cascading effect on Social Security and Medicare premiums is somewhere between $480,000 and $600,000. That gap between what the screen shows and what Lyle keeps, That's the invoice. And it gets wider every year he doesn't act. So why 73? Because that's the age the IRS chose as the collection date. Under current law, the Secure 2.0 Act, if you were born between 1951 and 1959, your required minimum distributions begin the year you turn 73. If you were born in 1960 or later, it's 75. But for Lyle and millions of Americans in his generation, 73 is the line. Here's the mechanic. The IRS publishes something called the Uniform Lifetime Table. It assigns a divisor to every age starting at 72. You take your total account balance as of December 31st of the prior year and divide by that number. The result is your RMD, the minimum amount the IRS forces out of your account, fully taxable, no exceptions. At 73, the divisor is 26.5. That means you're required to withdraw approximately 3.7 to 7% of your balance. For Lyle, that's $780,000 divided by 26.5, roughly $29,434 in year one. But the divisor shrinks every year, and this is where the math turns. At 75, the divisor drops to 24.6. At 80, it's 20.2, forcing out about 4.9 to 5%, which for Lyle would be roughly $38,600. At 85, the divisor is 16 forced withdrawal of approximately $48,750. At 90, it's 12.2, roughly $63,900. The IRS doesn't ask if Lyle needs that money. It doesn't care if the market is down 20%. It doesn't care if Lyle has a pension covering his expenses. It doesn't care if the withdrawal pushes him into a bracket he's never been in before. The withdrawal is mandatory. And if Lyle forgets or decides he doesn't want to take it, the penalty is 25% of the amount he should have withdrawn. It reduced to 10% if he corrects it within 2 years. Not a gentle nudge, a sledgehammer. Now here's where the cascade hits. That $29,000 RMD in year one isn't just a withdrawal. It's income taxable income that stacks on top of Lyle's Social Security, on top of any pension, on top of any part-time earnings. It pushes his total income higher, which pushes his tax bracket higher, which pushes more of his Social Security into the taxable zone, which pushes his Maggie toward or past an Irma cliff. One withdrawal, 4 consequences every year. Growing larger, Lyle's neighbor, same street, same age, similar decades of work, retired with what looked like a comparable nest egg. But the neighbor did something between 60 and 72 that Lyle didn't. He moved a significant portion of his traditional IRA into a Roth. He paid taxes on each conversion willingly at a lower bracket during years when his income was modest and his rate was the lowest it had been since his 20s. By the time 73 arrived, the neighbor's traditional balance was smaller. His RMDs were smaller. His taxable income was lower, his Social Security taxation was minimal. His Medicare premium was standard $202.90 per month. Lyle is paying the maximum at every level. Same neighborhood, same career trajectory, same decades of saving, radically different invoice. The difference wasn't luck, it wasn't income, it wasn't risk tolerance. It was one set of decisions the neighbor made during a window Lyle didn't know existed. Let's go back to that break room for a moment. The most disciplined saver this company has ever seen. That sentence, the one Lyle repeated to his wife that night, is the exact reason his bill is the size it is. Because every piece of advice Lyle followed for 41 years pointed in one direction. Put more in. Maximize your contribution. Get the full employer match, that's free money, they told him. Increase your deferral by 1% every year. And Lyle did. Every single year, without ever questioning who benefits most from that discipline. The employer match is real, the tax deferral is real, the compounding is real, but so is the invoice at the end. And nobody sat Lyle down and explained the other side of the equation, that every dollar he contributed came with a silent agreement that the IRS would collect on it later, plus everything it earned along the way. Think about it this way. If Lyle had contributed enough to capture his employer's full match but split the rest between a Roth IRA and a taxable brokerage account, his balance screen would show a smaller number today. He might not have won that plaque on the wall. His coworkers might not have clapped as loud at his party. But his after-tax retirement income, the money he actually gets to spend, could be meaningfully higher because a portion of it would come out tax-free from the Roth. Another portion would be taxed at long-term capital gains rates, which are lower than ordinary income rates for most people. Instead, every dollar sits in a single bucket. 100% taxable, 100% subject to RMDs, 100% feeding the cascade. The question was never how much can I contribute? The question should have been how much will I owe? Nobody around Lyle asked that question. Not his employer, who got a tax benefit for offering the plan, not his plan administrator, not the financial wellness seminar they held in that same break room every October with the same pie charts and the same advice: maximize, maximize, maximize. They all celebrated the input. None of them calculated the output. Here's the third thing this video promised you: the window. Between age 59.5 and 73, there is a period most Americans have never heard of. Financial planners call it the Roth conversion window. And for many retirees, it represents the single most valuable tax planning opportunity of their entire lives. Here's how it works. When you retire, or even in the final years before you do, your taxable income often drops. You're no longer earning a full salary. Social Security might not have started yet, or you're receiving a reduced amount because you claimed early. Pensions may not have kicked in. For the first time in decades, your tax bracket is lower than it's been since your 20s or 30s. That dip in income, that valley between your working years and the year RMDs begin, is the window. During those years, you can take money out of your traditional 401k or IRA, pay taxes on it at your current low rate, and move it into a Roth account. Once it's in the Roth, it grows tax-free. You withdraw it tax-free. It passes to your heirs tax-free. And critically, it does not count toward your RMD calculation. It does not feed your provisional income for Social Security taxation, and it does not push your Maggie toward an IRMAA cliff. Every dollar you move is a dollar you take off the IRS's invoice, permanently. The strategy is called filling the bracket. You calculate your total taxable income for the year. You find the ceiling of your current federal bracket, say the top of the 12% bracket or the top of the 22% bracket, and you convert exactly enough to fill the gap between your current income and that ceiling. Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. Why not a dollar more? Because of the cliffs. IRMA doesn't work like a tax bracket. There is no gradual increase. If your modified adjusted gross income crosses $109,000 as a single filer, even by one single dollar, Medicare charges you the full surcharge for the next tier, the full amount, for the entire year. $1 over the line can cost you more than $970 in additional premiums that year. And if you're married, both on Medicare, double it, nearly $2,000 because of $1. The math has to be precise. But when it's done right year after year, conversion after conversion, the payoff is enormous. Every dollar you move to a Roth during the window is a dollar the IRS cannot force out at 73. A dollar that doesn't push your bracket, a dollar that doesn't trigger IRMAA. A dollar that doesn't make your Social Security taxable. Lyle is 65. If his window opened at 60, he's already lost 5 years. He has roughly 8 years left before 73. Every year he waits is a year the IRS quietly thanks him for. His neighbor didn't wait, and when 73 arrived, the invoice proved the difference. If you're watching this and feeling a knot in your stomach, a tightness that says, I should have known this, let me say something clearly. This is not your fault. The system was not designed to warn you. There is no letter from the IRS at age 55 that says, your bill is growing, here's what to do. There is no alert inside your 401k portal that shows you the after-tax number alongside the pre-tax number. Your employer celebrated your contributions because it lowered their tax bill too. Your coworkers admired your discipline because they wished they had it. Your advisor, if you had one, probably said stay the course and meant it sincerely. And none of them mentioned the invoice. Not because they were hiding it. Most of them didn't know either. The entire system, from the enrollment form to the annual statement to the retirement seminar, is built to show you one number. The big number. The gross number. The number that makes you feel like everything is working. Nobody is incentivized to show you the other number, the real one. So, if you've spent 20, 30, 40 years maximizing contributions into a tax-deferred account and you're just now learning what happens at 73, you are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where millions of Americans are right now, holding a number they thought was theirs and discovering that a portion of it never was. According to Vanguard, the average 401k balance for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $244,700. $750. The median, the person right in the middle, has $87,571. Every one of those people is carrying an IRS invoice built into their balance. Most of them don't know it. The question is not whether the bill exists. It does. The question is whether the size of that bill is already decided. And if you are between 55 and 72 right now, it is not. Every year in the window is a chance to rewrite the total. Not to erase the bill entirely that ship sailed the day you made your first pre-tax contribution, but to reduce it meaningfully, strategically, before the IRS starts deciding for you. 3 things. No product to sell you, no course to pitch, no advisor link in the description, just math you can do with your own statement and a calculator. First, calculate how much of your balance the IRS already owns. Take your total traditional 401k or IRA balance. Estimate your federal tax bracket in retirement for most people, that's 12% or 22%. Multiply, that number is the IRS's share, subtract it from your balance. What's left is your real number, the money you'll actually keep. It will be smaller than what your statement shows. That's not a failure. That's the truth nobody put on your screen. Second, figure out if your window is open. Are you between 59.5 and 73? Then the Roth conversion window exists for you right now. If you're still working full-time, the window may be narrow, your salary keeps your bracket high, but if you've retired, reduced hours, taken a gap year, or transitioned to part-time work, your bracket might be lower than it's been in decades. And every dollar you convert at that lower rate is a dollar the IRS cannot claim at 73. Third, simulate your future RMD. Take your current balance, divide by 26.5, that's the IRS divisor at age 73. Write that number down. Now, divide the same balance by 20.2, that's age 80. Now by 16, age 85. Now by 12.2, that's age 90. Line those 4 numbers up. What you're looking at is the minimum amount the IRS will force out of your account in each of those years. Fully taxable, whether you need the money or not. If those numbers surprise you, if they're larger than you expected, if they're larger than your monthly expenses, if they push your income past thresholds you didn't know existed, good. That surprise today is worth more than the shock at 73, because today you can still do something about it. At 73, the only thing you can do is pay. One more thing. None of this requires hiring anyone. You don't need a financial advisor to run these 3 calculations. You need your most recent statement, a tax bracket chart, which is free on the IRS website, and 15 minutes. That's it. 15 minutes to see the number your statement was never designed to show you. Lyle is standing in the break room. The banner has peeled off one corner and is hanging at an angle. The cake is half gone, the frosting smudged where someone cut a piece too fast. The coffee went cold an hour ago. $780,000 on a screen, and a room full of people who just told him he won. He did win something. He won 41 years of discipline. He won the habit of saving when spending was easier. He won the compounding that most people never stick around long enough to see. That's real. That matters. Most Americans never get close to $780,000 in any account. Lyle did. That took character. But he also accumulated a bill. Not because he was careless, because he was consistent, not because the system failed, because the system worked exactly as it was designed to work in 1978. Collect later, collect more, collect on everything. Somewhere in that break room, between the peeling banner and the cold coffee, there's a version of this story that ends differently. A version where Lyle at 60, or 62, or 65 sees the invoice before it arrives, where he sits down with a calculator and discovers the gap between what the screen says and what he actually keeps, where he uses the years before 73 to quietly, strategically move money from one side of the ledger to the other. Not all of it, not overnight, but enough to change the math. That version of the story is still available to anyone watching this right now. The number on your screen hasn't changed. What's changed is what it means. And the difference between what you see and what you keep is a gap that gets wider every year you don't act. You did what you were told. You saved. You maximized. That wasn't wrong, it was incomplete. And incomplete is not the same as too late. The IRS has been patient for 50 years. The question is whether you'll be strategic for the next 5. Subscribe to this channel, doesn't send bills, just warnings.